Yo, what's good, Commanders Nation? Welcome back to the channel, fam. It's Monday, January 19th, 2026. It's 8 o'clock here in the DMV. And bro, let me tell you, today was an absolutely wild day when it comes to news about our Washington Commanders. We're talking defensive moves that could flip the whole direction of this franchise. A 7-round mock draft that's already got folks debating all over Twitter. And a defensive coordinator search that's getting more intense than a playoff game. Listen, I know the 2025 season was rough. 5-12 is not what any of us expected after all the hype last year with Jaden Daniels. But here we are, rebuilding, adjusting, and getting ready to come back stronger. And today's news, bro, it's got that, okay, things are getting real vibe. So buckle up, because we're breaking down everything that went down today. From the bombshell firing of Sean McDermott in Buffalo and why his path might be leading straight to the Commanders, to a full 7-round mock draft that's got people buzzing, and the quiet but very real drama in our defensive coordinator search. Let's get into it! News 1. Sean McDermott out in Buffalo. Instant target for the Commanders. Bro, when I saw the news this morning that the Buffalo Bills fired Sean McDermott after 9 seasons, I almost spit out my coffee, not because it was shocking like, whoa, didn't see that coming, but because I immediately thought, wait, this changes everything for us. And let me break it down for you, fam, because this is probably the biggest news of the day for the Commanders. And if Dan Quinn and Adam Peters aren't already on the phone with McDermott, then I don't know what they're doing. First, the context. Sean McDermott was in Buffalo for 9 years, man. 9! In that time, the Bills had only 1 losing season, made the playoffs in 8 of those 9 years, and won 5 straight AFC East titles. That's dominance, bro. That's stability. That's exactly what we haven't had in Washington over the last decade. But here's the thing. Despite all that success, McDermott never got Buffalo to the Super Bowl. They came up short again and again. And this year, after losing in overtime to the Denver Broncos in the playoffs, the Bills front office said, "That's it. We need a change." And I get the decision from Buffalo's side. When you see the New England Patriots, yeah, the Patriots, come back and win the division this year after 6 years without doing it, and then make it to the AFC Championship game, I'd be frustrated too if I were the Bills owner. Like, bro, you had Josh Allen in his prime, the championship window was wide open, and you couldn't close the deal. That stings. But for us, fam, this is a massive opportunity, because here's the thing. McDermott is an elite defensive coordinator, disguised as a head coach. Defense has always been his thing. And even though his unit in Buffalo dipped a bit the last 2 years, finishing 11th in scoring defense in 2024 and 12th in 2025, before that, they were top 5 in 5 of 6 seasons. 5 out of 6, bro! That's not luck. That's system. That's coaching. That's knowing how to build a defense that works year after year. Now compare that to us. The Commanders finished 18th in scoring defense in 2024 and 27th in 2025. 27th, fam. That's near rock bottom. That's unacceptable for a franchise trying to compete. And when McDermott got to Buffalo in 2017, their defense had just finished 16th. In his first 2 seasons, they were 18th. Basically, where we are now. But then, bro, boom! They jumped to 2nd in scoring defense and stayed in the top 10 for years. That's exactly the kind of trajectory we need. And here's the other thing that's got me hyped. McDermott isn't just a defensive coordinator. He's a leader. He's a guy who knows how to build culture, keep a team focused, get players to buy into the system. That's what we need in Washington. Because let's be real, fam, our defense last year wasn't just bad in the numbers, it was bad in effort, discipline, execution. We need someone to come in and say, all right, here's what we're doing, and we're doing it right. And if you're not with it, there's a seat on the bench. Now, obviously, McDermott's going to be a hot name for the 7 teams still looking for a head coach. That's a fact. But if he doesn't land one of those jobs, or if he decides to take a year off like Mike Tomlin supposedly is after leaving Pittsburgh, then bro, we have to be in the mix to bring him in as our defensive coordinator. And not just in the mix, we gotta be aggressive. We gotta show him that Washington is the place where he can rebuild his rep, where he can take a broken defense and turn it into something special again. Because think about it, fam. If McDermott comes here and turns our defense into a top 10, maybe even top 5 unit in 2 or 3 years, teams are going to be lining up to hire him as a head coach again. That's his motivation. And our motivation is clear. We need to win. We need to protect Jayden Daniels. We need to give our offense a chance to do its thing without having to score 35 points every game just to stay in it. And here's the part that really gets me excited. McDermott has worked with all kinds of defensive schemes. He's developed young talent. He's maximised vets. And he knows how to adjust to opponents. That's exactly what we need. Because let's be honest, Joe Witt Jr. didn't give us that. No adjustments, no creativity, nothing that made me think, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. With McDermott, fam, I trust we'd see a defence that plays smart, aggressive, and with purpose. Now, I gotta say, McDermott isn't the only name on our list. We've got Brian Flores, who's doing magic in Minnesota. We've got Carl Scott, one of the brightest young minds in Seattle. But bro, McDermott is a proven name. He's a guy who's already built an elite defense in the NFL. That's different. That's a level of experience and credibility you can't ignore. And yeah, I know some of y'all are going to say, but Josh, what if McDermott's burned out? What if he needs a break? And I get that concern, but fam, this is a guy who just spent 9 years in one of the most intense markets in the NFL with Super Bowl expectations every year, and he never folded. That tells me he's got the right mindset. And if he decides he wants to keep coaching this year, we need to be there with an offer he can't refuse. Because at the end of the day, bro, this defensive coordinator hire is the most important decision Dan Quinn's going to make this offseason. More important than the draft, more important than free agency, more important than anything else. Because if we don't fix the defense, nothing else matters. Jayden Daniels could be the best quarterback in the world, but if our defense is giving up 30 points a game, we're not winning. Period. So fam, I'm here hoping, fingers crossed, that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are taking this seriously, that they're making the calls, putting together the offer, ready to move fast if McDermott shows interest. Because if we let him slip away and he ends up somewhere else, and in 2 years he's building a top 5 defense for another team, we're going to be sitting here kicking ourselves like, why didn't we go harder? And I don't want to be in that spot, bro. I want to be celebrating in 2 years, saying, remember when we hired McDermott and he changed the whole game for us? That's what I want. Okay, fam, take a breath with me for a second, because that was a lot. But listen, we still got 2 more stories to cover. And the next one is super interesting, because it gives us a look at what our draft might look like in April. And bro, some of these names are gonna surprise you. Let's go. News 2. 7-round mock draft has the Commanders stacking talent to support Jayden Daniels. All right, fam. Now let's talk draft, and specifically a 7-round mock draft that dropped today from A to Z Sports, put together by Josh Taylor. And bro, this mock has some super interesting picks that I think are worth breaking down, because it gives us a glimpse of what we might be looking at come April when we're sitting on that number 7 overall pick. And let me tell you, man, if this mock plays out like this, I'd be hyped. Let's start with round 1. Pick number 7, David Bailey, edge, Texas Tech. And yo, when I saw that name, I had to do a double take because he's not one of the names everyone's been throwing around, like Abdul Carter or Michael Williams. But bro, when you look at the numbers, you get why Josh Taylor has him here. Bailey is 6'3", 250 pounds, and has a pressure rate of 22.1% over the last 3 seasons. That's higher than Abdul Carter, Jared Verse, and Will Anderson Jr. Read that again. Fam, higher than some of the best pass rushers we've seen in recent years. And here's the thing, we need an elite pass rusher. That's probably our biggest need across the whole roster. We weren't aggressive enough last year in upgrading that spot, and we paid the price. Our pressure on the quarterback was inconsistent. And when you can't get to the QB, it doesn't matter how good your secondary is, you're gonna get torched. So bringing in a guy like Bailey, who had 15 sacks in 2025 and a 9% run stop rate, which is solid for his size, would be a huge move for us. And what I like about Bailey, fam, is that he's not a one-trick pony. He's not just a speed rusher or just a power guy. He's got a unique pass rush skill set that lets him win in multiple ways. He can finesse, he can bull rush, he can convert speed to power, he's got counter moves. That's what you need in today's NFL, because offensive tackles are too good for you to just have one move. Bailey's got the full toolkit, and that's got me excited. Now, obviously, there are other names in the mix for that number 7 pick. Abdul Carter from Penn State is probably the most popular one, and I wouldn't be mad if we took him. But Bailey is a name I think is going to rise up boards as we get closer to the draft, especially after the Combine and Pro Days. And if he's there at 7, I think we seriously got to consider him. Now let's jump to round 3, pick number 71, Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver, Indiana. And bro, this pick has me hyped because Cooper Jr. is exactly the kind of receiver we need to complement Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. He's a 6-foot, 204-pound slot receiver, but he can also line up outside. And here's the detail that's got me excited. David Blau, our new OC, comes from a system similar to Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson in Detroit. And if you know that system, you know the slot receiver is crucial. Look at what Amon-Ra St. Brown does in that system. Look at what Luther Burden III did in a similar setup. Those guys are weapons, fam, and Cooper Jr. fits that mold, and Cooper Jr.'s numbers are ridiculous. He's got a career drop rate of just 4%. 4%, bro, that's elite. And he's got a contested catch rate of 56%, which means when the ball's in the air and a defender's on him, he's winning more than half those battles. That's exactly what Jaden Daniels needs. A guy he can trust on third down, someone who can make plays in the short game, but also stretch the field vertically. And here's the part that really gets me pumped. Cooper Jr. is the kind of weapon Jaden didn't have last year. Yeah, we've got Terry, and Terry's a stud, but we need more options. We need a guy who can work the middle of the field, run option routes, be a safety blanket for Jaden when things get tight. Cooper Jr. is that guy, and getting him in the 3rd round would be a steal. Now round 5, pick number 145, Bishop Fitzgerald, safety, USC. And bro, this pick is necessary because our safety room last year was probably the worst in the NFL. No exaggeration, fam. It was bad. So bringing in a guy like Fitzgerald, who's got 14 interceptions since 2023, would be a massive upgrade. And what I like about him is he's got those natural instincts to read and react. You can't teach that. Bro, you either have it or you don't. And Fitzgerald's got it. Now, yeah, he's got some limitations in the run game, but he's physical at the catch point against receivers. And he's played in multiple defensive schemes, so he's got experience. And for a 5th round pick, fam, that's exactly what you want. You're not looking for an all-pro in round 5. You're looking for a solid starter who can contribute right away, and Fitzgerald fits that bill. 6th round, pick number 185, Traden Stukes, cornerback, Arizona. And bro, Josh Taylor says Stukes is one of the most underrated players in the entire draft, and after looking at his numbers, I agree. This dude is 6'2", 200 pounds, which is big for a corner, but he moves super fluid. He had 4 interceptions and 6 pass breakups in 2025. And here's the crazy part. He didn't commit a single penalty and didn't allow a single touchdown in coverage. Read that again, fam. 0 penalties, 0 touchdowns allowed. That's insane. Oh, and what I like about Stukes is he can play multiple spots. Most of his snaps came in the slot, but he can also play safety and be a versatile piece depending on the package. That's exactly what you need in today's NFL because offenses are so multiple now. You need defenders who can do multiple things. Stukes is that guy, and getting him in the 6th round would be another steal. 6th round again, pick number 196, Jack Kelly, linebacker, BYU. And bro, this guy is a high-motor linebacker who reminds me of those old-school backers that just make plays. He had 29 pressures as a linebacker, the most in the Power 4, and 9 sacks to go with it. He also had 23.5 tackles for loss over the last 2 seasons. That's production, fam. That's a guy who's living in the backfield. And here's the thing. We still need pass rush help, even after taking Bailey in round 1. You can never have too many pass rushers in today's NFL. And Kelly can blitz, fill gaps, do all the things you need from a modern linebacker. And yeah, he's not elite in coverage, but he had 18 coverage stops, which ranked 21st in the country. So he's not a total liability. For a 6th round pick, that's more than enough. And finally, 7th round, pick number 223, Joshua Braun, offensive guard, Kentucky. And this is a depth pick, but it's important because our offensive line got a lot better last year after bringing in Laramie Tunsil and drafting Josh Connolly Jr. But we still need depth. Braun is 6'6", 342 pounds, and has only allowed 4 sacks over the last 2 seasons on 936 passing snaps. That's solid, fam. And he's got experience in both gap and inside zone blocking schemes, which is exactly what David Blau is going to run in our offense. So, fam, when you look at this mock draft as a whole, what you see is a draft focused on fixing the defense. Bailey, Fitzgerald, Stukes, Kelly, while also giving Jaden Daniels more weapons on offense, Cooper Jr., and adding depth to the offensive line, Braun. That's exactly what we need to do this offseason. We can't just focus on one side of the ball. We need to get better everywhere. And obviously, this is just a mock draft. We don't know what's going to happen in April, but what we do know is Adam Peters has 6 picks to work with. And if he can pull off a draft like this, where we're getting value in every round and filling real needs, then I think we're going to be in a much better spot to compete in 2026. All right, fam, 2 stories down, 1 more to go. And this last one is important because it gives us an update on our defensive coordinator search. And bro, things are getting a little complicated. Let's get into it. News 3. Kevin Stefanski's hire in Atlanta complicates the Commanders' defensive coordinator search. Okay, fam. So this one's a little frustrating, but it's important because it gives us a real-time update on where we stand in our search for a defensive coordinator. And the truth is, things aren't going exactly how we hoped. According to John Keim from ESPN, Jeff Ulbrich was one of, if not the, top targets for the Commanders in this search. And bro, that makes total sense, because Ulbrich did an incredible job in Atlanta this year. His defense was top 10 in multiple categories, and he's got a rep for developing young talent and getting the most out of the guys he's got. But here's the problem. The Atlanta Falcons just hired Kevin Stefanski as their new head coach, and according to reports, Stefanski is very likely to keep Ulbrich as his defensive coordinator. And bro, when I saw that news, I was like, man, seriously? Because that means Ulbrich is officially off our board, and now we've got to pivot to other candidates. And here's the thing, fam, this search has already taken longer than I expected. Dan Quinn moved quick to promote David Blau as OC, but on the defensive side, we're still waiting, and I get it. There are a lot of coordinators still in the playoffs, and you can't interview them until their teams are eliminated. But at the same time, bro, we can't wait too long because other teams are also hunting for DCs. And if we drag our feet, we're going to miss out on the best options. Now, the good news is we still have some strong names on the board. Brian Flores from Minnesota is probably the hottest name available right now. This dude took a mediocre Vikings defense and turned it into one of the best in the league. And he's got head coaching experience too, so he knows how to handle pressure and expectations. If I'm Dan Quinn, I'm on the phone with Flores right now, offering him whatever he needs to come to Washington. Then we've got Carl Scott from Seattle, one of the most promising young minds in the league. He's the defensive pass game coordinator and DB's coach for the Seahawks, and their secondary has been one of the best in the NFL this year. The issue is, Seattle's still in the playoffs, so we can't interview him yet. But bro, if Scott becomes available, we need to be in that conversation. And then there's Jonathan Gannon, who we've already interviewed. Gannon's got experience as a defensive coordinator, and he'd be an easy hire if we decide to go that route. But fam, I don't know if Gannon is the kind of hire that's going to move the needle for one of the worst defences in the league. We need someone who can come in and make an immediate impact. And I'm not sure Gannon is that guy. And of course, there's still Sean McDermott, who we just talked about. If McDermott doesn't land a head coaching job and decides he wants to be a DC again, he has to be on our list. But that's a big if, because like I said earlier, he's probably going to have multiple head coach offers. Now here's what's got me worried, fam. According to this report, the best case scenario right now is going all in on Flores and showing him that he's our top choice. But the problem is, Flores also has a second interview lined up with the Pittsburgh Steelers for their head coach opening. So if we wait too long, we could lose him too. And if we lose Flores, and we already lost Ulbrich, and McDermott gets a head coaching job somewhere else, then where does that leave us? It leaves us with second-tier options. And bro, we can't afford that. Not after the season we just had. And here's the other thing that's got me a little uneasy. According to the report, we haven't even had an interview with Raheem Morris yet, who's another name that's been linked to us. And Morris has head coaching experience, DC experience, and knows how to build a defense. But if we haven't even talked to him yet, what are we waiting for? Because other teams are definitely looking at him. And if we wait too long, he could be off the board too. So fam, here's my take. Dan Quinn and Adam Peters need to be aggressive in this search. We can't afford to sit back and see how things play out. We need to identify our top guy, whether that's Flores, Scott, or even McDermott if he's available. And we need to go all in. We need to show them that Washington is the place where they can come and do their best work, where they've got the resources, the support, and a real shot to build something special. Because at the end of the day, bro, this defensive coordinator hire is what's going to define the 2026 season for us. If we make the right hire, and that person comes in and transforms our defense, then suddenly we're in the playoff conversation. But if we make the wrong hire, or if we wait too long and miss out on the best candidates, then we're going to be right back here next year asking what went wrong. And I don't want to be in that spot. Fam, I want to be celebrating a year from now, saying, remember when we hired insert name and they flipped the whole thing around for us? That's what I want. So Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, if you're listening to this, and I know you're not, but let me dream, please be aggressive, make the calls, make the offers, and bring in someone who can fix this defense. Because if you don't, bro, we're going to be having the same conversation next year, and none of us want that. All right, fam, that's it for today's video. We covered a lot, from Sean McDermott getting fired and what that could mean for us, to a 7-round mock draft with some super interesting names, to the quiet but very real drama in our defensive coordinator search. And bro, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's this. This offseason is critical for the Washington Commanders. The decisions Dan Quinn and Adam Peters make in the next few weeks are going to shape the future of this franchise. And I know the 2025 season was tough. 5-12 is not what any of us wanted. But fam, we've got Jaden Daniels, we've got draft picks, we've got cap space, and we've got a real shot to turn this thing around. But we need to make the right moves. We need to hire the right defensive coordinator. We need to draft smart. We need to be aggressive in free agency. If we do those things, bro, I think we're going to be in a much better spot next year. So fam, if you made it this far, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, who do you want as our next defensive coordinator? Brian Flores, Carl Scott, Sean McDermott, someone else? I want to hear what you think, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. We all want the same thing, to see the Commanders win. And bro, I'll see you tomorrow with more news, more analysis, more hype, because this is just the beginning. Fam, the off-season is just getting started, and it's gonna be a wild ride. Let's go, Commanders. Hail to the burgundy and gold. Peace.